The second type of connotative meaning is the associative meaning, which is the overall meaning of an expression that consists of the expectation that are rightly or wrongly associated with the referent. For example, the word nurse is a good example. Most people automatically associate nurse with the idea of female gender, as if nurse were synonyms with a female who looks after the sick. This unconscious association is so widespread that the term male nurse has had to be coined with the counteract his effect. He is a nurse still sounds semantically odd even today. Any area of reference in which the prejudice and stereotypes, however, operate is likely to give example of associative meaning. Okay? So, for example, consider in this respect the association of crusade in English, which continue to be positive regardless of recent Western scholarly reassessment in this era, and constructed this with the strongly negative association of حملة صليبية, which in Arabic. Conversely, or on the opposite side, the word jihad in Arabic traditionally has highly positive association, but in English, the cultural borrowing jihad is chiefly associated with an organization such as Islamic Jihad, which are widely regarded in the West as the extremists and anti-democratic. For some reasons, the word jihad has also acquired negative association among some Arabic speakers. It's important here not to confuse associative meaning with the polysemy. Okay, the word crusade is polysemous, having amongst its sense, for example, a military expedition undertaken by the Christian of Europe in the 11th, 12th, and 13th century to recover the Holy Land from Muslim, and by the extension, any war instigated and blessed by the Church for alleged religious ends, a holy war. Okay, or an aggressive movement or enterprise against some public evil or some institution or class of person considered as an evil. Okay, these definitions from the Oxford Dictionary. So, since too the crusade is an aggressive movement or enterprise against some public evil is not an associative meaning of sense one. A military expedition undertaken by the Christian of Europe in the 11th, 12th, and the 13th century to recover the Holy Land, rather, this is the case of polysemy. So the word crusade is a polysemous, having amongst other senses, sense 1 and 2 given here. Okay, good examples of associative. Another good example of associative meaning is provided by the word Ramadan in English and in Arabic. Westerns, or the native speaker of English who know something about Islam, might regard Ramadan as a time of self-denial and fasting, which it is. However, in Muslim country, Ramadan also a time of celebration in which children are allowed to stay up late at night, where there is a lot of going on in the streets into the middle of the night, when families who have been separated come together again, etc. This association are likely to be missed even by an informed Western readership of the text in which Ramadan figures, unless they have some personal experience of the Middle East people. Given the relative cultural distance between the Arab world and the English-speaking world, associative meaning are likely to be a problem. Consider the potentially difficulties of translating the word maqha into English. A denotative near equivalent might be tea house, or tea garden, coffee house, or possibly cafe. However, in terms of the cultural status of the word maqha as the center of informal male social life, the nearest equivalent in the British culture might be the pub. Given the Islamic prohibition on the drinking alcohol, however, such a translation, if we translate the word maqha to pub, would be in most cases be ruled out. Okay? Another example of how associative meaning may motivate a shift in denotative meaning between the source text and the target text. For example, ثم شد الغطاء على جسمها الهرم. This sentence was translated by Brown 96, them pulling the covers over her frail body. Here the translator has not translated harem by a target language term that is roughly synonymous with it, such as old or aged. Aged here is perhaps relatively acceptable, although it provides information that is already well known to the reader and therefore seem irrelevant in his context. Okay? Rather than using the term old and aged, the translator has taken the association of harem, which old, with the frailty. Old people tend to be frail, particularly if they are very ill, and has accordingly used the denotative meaning frail to render this associative meaning of harem. So, the associative meaning that we have examined so far are extra-linguistically motivated. Thus, the association of maqha, tea house or tea garden, coffee house, etc., are a function of the status that a maqha enjoys in the Arabic world, not of feature intrinsic to the word itself. There are, however, associative meaning that are linguistically determined. This can be seen in the case of what is something determined imperfect synonyms. An example is the verb verintegel, or from the Dutch, this term, where these two words appears to have referred exactly the same range of situation. Even in the writing of one and the same author, however, differences become apparent when the frequencies of different senses are compared. Okay? Another example of linguistically motivated associative meaning difference in classical Arabic is that between dhanb and ithm. These words both means sin, wrong, offensive, and both seem to have had the same range meaning of anything that could be called an ithm could be also called a dhanb, and vice versa. They were thus synonym. Okay? On the basis of a survey of the usage of these two words in a corpus group of classical Arabic texts, however, ا.علي 2004 concludes that the two words tend to be associated with different types of activity. Okay, so we cannot call the ithm, it doesn't carry the same meaning of dhanb. For example, ithm was typically used for sins that are personal or do not entail a punishment in this world, such as a failing to perform obligatory act of worship, or doing a bad deed who has effects are liable to have a bad effect on oneself, such as drinking or gambling. On the other hand, the word dhanb was typically used for sins that involve punishment in the world of the text, such as killing, theft, or adultery. So, we can conclude that the ithm in Arabic is being given linguistically or used linguistically in Arabic عندما الشخص يذنب بحق نفسه، لكن ذنب كذنب تكون عندما الشخص يذنب بحق غيره. This is the conclusion of ا.علي 2004. Okay? There are many, of course, be cases where the unassociative meaning seems to be partly extra-linguistically motivated and partly linguistically determined, or where it is not clear which of the two factors is operative or more important. If both seems to be operative, okay, so you can just if both seems to be operative,